the Rangers Journal now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Thursday night's edition of the Rangers Journal. 3 days since the transfer window slammed shut, and the talking point in everyone's lips at the moment is, was it a good transfer window for Rangers or not? Joining me tonight, we've got two handsome gentlemen, as Mitch just called us a minute ago. We've got Rich joining us from Germany, and we've got Mitch from his front living room there, which looks tremendous. How are you, gentlemen? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Had a first pod I've done in quite a few weeks, actually. I had a bit of a breakaway. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Great stuff, Rich. How are you, Mitch?
I'm good, mate. I'm just trying to keep my head here so that the snake behind me doesn't pop out. So
that may be a surprise.
If anyone sees a red or orange snake behind me, do not panic. I'm not about to be eaten. It is in fact in the house behind me.
Fantastic, Rich. Thank you. Gents, look, I think the question obviously tonight, we've got viewers who'll be tuning in and they'll want to put some questions to us, we've got no doubt, around transfer window. Topic of the night will be about the transfer window, the ins and outs, some of the conversations we've heard over the last couple of days. We'll maybe touch on Kevin Thelwell's interview the other day and some of the comments he made. I think there was a 20 million net spend comment that was made that raised a few eyebrows from a few people. So I'm sure we'll get to that. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's tuning in. If you are tuning in, please like and subscribe. It would certainly help the podcast and help the page. And obviously put your comments into the chat, put your questions in, and we'll try and get round as many of them as we can. So, Rich, can I come to yourself first, mate, if possible? First question to you would be, was it a successful transfer window for Rangers in your opinion?
Difficult one to answer, really, to be honest. The proof's going to be in the pudding later on when we see how they perform, because we all thought straight away that the summer transfer, the signings that we made during pre-season were great, and not all of them have hit the ground running, to be honest. But I'm optimistic. I think a few of them might, well, certainly hopeful that a few of them might surprise us. I quite like the acquisition of Cornelius. You know, from what I've looked at him, he seems quite a shrewd. I think he'll be one that will surprise us. I'm not going to say he's gone under the radar by any way, but from what I've looked into about him and stuff like that, his pedigree that he's got, I'm quietly optimistic and quite hopeful on it. Whereas the boy from Everton putting out quite an outlay on him with no real stats to really go on, it almost feels a bit of a punt in a way, and serious amount of money of a punt, but you know, we got to trust Thelwell, but then also we've got to hold him to account. So, for saying it's a good transfer window, I think, well, my gut instinct tells me that I think we're going to get more right than wrong, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, there's a few that I'm quietly optimistic about, and there's a few that I'm really got raised eyebrows about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, similar myself, it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. So I couldn't agree more with you on that one, Rich. Mitch, what's your thoughts on the transfer window, and anyone stand out for you that you want to maybe focus on tonight, and we can touch on a little bit later?
I think I would say there's probably four best in class from this window. I'm a big backer of Cornelius, like Richard is. I really like Cornelius. I've watched him play a few times. He's a big, strong, aggressive, vocal centre back that I think that's something that maybe with the inexperience of Jigga at the back, that he'll probably help complement that a little bit more and bring a bit more balance and stability into the back line. And I like the fact that he's got the option to purchase there as well. I think the rumours are about £3-4 million to make it permanent next summer. He was also a cracking player while he was at Malmo as well. I think Asgard will probably come good. He just, before the break there, I think he just looked like a player who had missed a couple of weeks of pre-season. First game back there, he had to kill a touch of Harold Shipman for the first game that he played, but that's to be expected with a layoff and missing a wee chunk of pre-season. I think Ant-Man's going to be the surprise package. Oliver Ant-Man comes with huge assist record, and he plays in a very fast-flowing movement. I just don't think the balance with him and Aaron's at the back's quite right. I think
Mhm.
Aaron is too defensively minded for the way that Ant-Man wants to run. But and you've seen that obviously, in the brief cameos when Tavs played at right back with him, where the two of them complement each other's running quite nicely. And then I would still say I think Fernandez long term comes good. I know it's a huge outlay and you can't really call a 23, 24-year-old a prospect. I genuinely don't think you can call a 23 or 24-year-old a prospect. Like, at that point, you're coming up to what should be your senior years. You should be a regular starter on your team at that point. You should have a starting berth nailed down. You shouldn't be coming in to be a prospect at 23-year-old. But I'm a bit like Richard. I think we've probably got more right than wrong this window.
Mhm.
And if I was to rate it, I'd have probably said a 7 out of 10. And I think some of that's down to we've improved age, stage, and wage at the club.
Yep.
And that's something that we've been crying out for since 55 to get some of these high earners out that are on, huge chunks of money and not contributing much. There's still going to be elements of deadwood left in the club, guys like Rabi, but you can't sell what's injured at that moment in time. And Kieran Dowell, if a guy's got a guarantee of whatever he's on per week for 12 months versus getting maybe half of that to go back down south, I'm sitting where I am for 12 months as well.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Rich, can I ask you in terms of the numbers that were brought in, and I'll clarify the numbers. So 14 players have came in, including Oscar Cortez, and I think it's around 18 players went out, including 3 loans that ended. Cherny, Casemiro, and Fernandez was including the 3 loans that went out. So 14 players and 18 players out. The Rangers supporters have well known said over the last few years that a big turnaround was needed at Ibrox. Is that the turnaround you expected, or has that surprised you in terms of the turnover in players coming in and going out?
I think to answer it, well, what has surprised me most is the tactic that they've used, their transfer strategy, where they've relied heavily on loans. And when they've been doing it, I've seen on social media and stuff a lot of the complaints or concerns, shall we say, where our entire backline was made up of loans, so we're going to be in the exact same situation next year. And I've tried to sort of rationalise it in my head in a way and sort of think, so obviously quite a few of them are gambles. Some look like they might not pay off, but some of them might. And I think what they're trying to do is get in players that we probably wouldn't be able to attract to our club on a permanent transfer. Guys like Giga, he wasn't going to sign for us if it was between Wolves and Rangers when that bid came in. But we can get him for a year and do a job for us, and helping him out, giving him the experience, helping Wolves out and get that. But we're attracting a level of footballer on a much, without having a significant outlay. I don't know what the fee is, the loan fee that we've paid, what percentage of his wages we're paying for, but we're getting a player of, well, this is the theory behind it, we're getting a better standard of player for a smaller outlay compared to if we ignored that and thought, let's get somebody in on a permanent basis that we're going to, for the same amount of money, we probably wouldn't attract a player of Giga's quality. Now, I'm saying that he's not exactly been, setting the heather on fire since he's had a few good performances and some shockers, to be honest. But I can understand, or maybe I'm got my blue tinted glasses on, I'm trying to understand the rationale of what the board's trying to do, or what the management team's trying to do with regards to the transfer strategy. So that, first of all, really, really did surprise me. So I had to get my head around it, and I am in favour of it. But again, like some of the transfers, it's a bit of a gamble, but I think it's more of a calculated risk.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. I think the numbers that have come in, it's always going to take time, Rich, as you know, to bed in and bed these players in. And I think even with the level that went out, it's a massive overhaul of the playing squad. And I think every Rangers fan wanted that, didn't they? That's what we were saying a couple of seasons ago. We needed that. I think some fans are still a bit concerned that there's still some there like Kieran Dowell and, dare I say it, Rabbi Matondo. Those are the couple of names that probably give the people a bit of a fear on that one, if I'm being honest. So yeah, totally get where you're coming from that one. Mitch, if I can come to yourself, we're going to bring up a list of what's come in, and we can spend a little bit of time talking through. So just in terms of the arrivals that have come in there, I'm going to pick out a couple of names, and I know just before I do that, lots of comments coming in, guys. Thank you for your comments. We're loving the comments coming in. We've got a couple of questions we'll put to the guys in a few moments, and but Mitch, from who's come in so far, looking at those names, and obviously looking at the fact that we have brought in, what's that, 5 loans. We've used the loan market for 5 players there. Has, just following on from what Rich said, has the loan market surprised you? And is that the type of player you would have expected to come in through the loan market to Rangers this season?
I think the only loan that's probably surprised me in terms of calibre of player was probably Aaron's coming in. But equally, prior to coming to us, Aaron's has had a kind of, on a professional front, he's had quite a hard 18 months before coming here. You know, he took the injury, he was in and out the Bournemouth team, took the loan out to Spain where it just didn't quite work out in Spain. And then, but I think you can see the logic behind the Aaron's loan as well, though, obviously, you know, again, not to heart the point, but we all know we've got aging legs as in our current right back, you know, and the club captain who's in his contract year right now. And this time, fast forward 12 months from now, Aaron's is in the final year of his Bournemouth contract at that point as well.
Yeah.
So I can see where Kevin Thelwell's kind of going with that try before you buy option there, because realistically for our next right back, we probably need somebody that's equally durable, somebody that's proven themselves at this level. So there's a bit of risk management on it of, if we're going to outlay, say, £5 or £6 million or whatever it is Bournemouth want next summer for him, then we've got every right to kind of take a peek under the bonnet for a year to say, well, look, we'll cover his wages or whatever for the year. And if it doesn't work out, then we're not committed to buying him for £5 or £6 million, because that's a lot of money to be sitting there going, well, great, we've got a £5 million donkey sitting there that we can't do anything with.
Yeah.
I think in terms of Mikey Moore, when I look at the loans, that's a great example of utilising the loan market for a special talent that realistically we could not afford to bring in. That ship sailed. He's won the Europa League with Spurs last season. You know, what he really needs is he needs game time and minutes, and he needs obviously to get experience and to essentially be roughed up a little bit in the senior game. So that's a loan that I think some of these loan moves with the likes of Jigger, with the likes of Moore and Magoma and stuff, these are also relationship building, exercises as well with the club to, other clubs down south, where I know we've maybe already had that slightly with Wolves when it comes to, and I didn't say his name too loudly, Fabio Silva. But, his time with us got him the move out to Las Palmas last year, obviously on loan, and they've now just sold him for about 20 to 25 million out to Dortmund.
Yeah.
And that spell that he's had here has been equally beneficial for Wolves as it has been for us, because it was a body that we needed at the time, because everybody was falling down in the battlefield.
Yeah.
And then they've managed to get a good return on their investment down the road as well.
Yeah.
So which has probably put us in the stead to get a player like Jigger. And I think Richard touched on it. Jigger's had some cracking games for us, and I think weirdly, I think he's one of the players that the international breaks came at the right time for him.
Yeah.
Because he had a couple of rocks in the team there, a couple of wee, the arse made some buttons while he was in the back line, and he's made some mistakes. And I think actually the kindest thing for him right now is to say, look, stop for a minute, regroup, get yourself back together, get in the training pitch, and get working again. Because we know that you can do this, because you've already shown us that you can do it. Don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it. And that's probably part of that learning process that he's been brought up the road to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're spot on. I think Aaron's, for me, I thought when he came in, Mitch, I thought he was a cracking signing at first, and seeing some of the videos of what he could do at previous clubs, and thought this guy's going to set the header alight, and then he's looked lost. He's looked like a little boy out in that pitch sometimes. So I really do hope we see more from him. I think it's tough though, because you look at Tav when Tav's come in. Tav really hasn't put too many feet wrong since he's come in and tried to take that position back again. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And while we'll get this slide up, guys, I would just want to touch on a couple of questions that have come in, and then I'll come to Paul's question a little bit later in the podcast. First question we've got from Smoke is, how much did we gain in sales? Understanding in terms of the sales number, we let, what was that, around, I said 18 players go is the number we looked at initially. 18 players out, including the 3 loans that came to an end. We understand the figures to be around 24.9 million that came in terms of how much we gained in sales. Hamza Egeman 10.4, Jeff Tate 6.5, Dessers, it could be anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5 based on add-ons, etc. Yilmaz, we believe it was 2, and Robin Proper, we believe it was 1.5. So overall, you're talking about 25, roughly, there or thereabouts. Rich, from your point of view, does that surprise you, that number? Should it have been higher? Could we have got a little bit more? Or are you satisfied with the amount of money we've made in sales there?
I think if you think of the previous summers or previous transfer windows where we've got absolutely nothing from our players, we've let players of value run down our contracts or not sell them at the right time, I think we can't be disappointed with that, to be honest. Yeah. The only one I personally was a little bit disappointed about, but in the end it was the right thing, was I was expecting more money for Egeman. I don't know, first, same as pretty much everyone here, first I've heard about this release clause that was activated. Nobody had mentioned that before, but then all of a sudden, because of his dodgy knees, got a release clause. Yeah. So I would have probably been hopeful for a bit more, and I think that was what they initially wanted more. But he played his card, he got rid of it. So to answer your question properly, yeah, I'm quite happy and satisfied with it. I think we've done well. I think, to be honest, getting 2 million for Yilmaz, considering how injury prone he's been, I know he's always been linked to going back to Turkey, but I'm quite surprised that they still want him for the amount of games that he's played for us, or the lack of games that he's played for us. So I was quite happy with that. So, but yeah, overall, I think we made some sales at the right time, got some money in. Jeffy, absolute bargain. Bought him for and then selling him for 6 million.
Yeah,
great bit of business. And as much as he has potential to go further, I think it was, I can't remember who was in the podcast, but we got to be confident we can find the next Jeffy. Do you know what I mean? Not be scared to let him go. Not be scared to sell them when somebody's coming in and giving us money like that. We got to be confident and have confidence in our scouting department and the team or even our youth team, God forbid, that we can find the next Jeffy to bring in cheap and sell high. So overall, I think it's been a good summer.
Excellent. Just before I go on to the next part of it, I just want to say, I've just flashed up there, Ross, thank you for your donation. Greatly appreciated, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Second part of that question that I had there, and Mitch, I'll come to yourself with it. And Smoke had asked the question, obviously, how much we made. He's now asked the question, the second part, how much did we spend? We believe it was 32.4 million in terms of our outgoings. Some of the numbers on that one that I'll run through really quickly. Shermiti, you're talking roughly anywhere between 8 and 10 is what the rumour is on that one. Ant-Man, you're talking about 4 million, roughly, again, when you look at the add-ons and things that goes with it. Another outlay of 3.5, as you said, for Fernandez. And then the one that I think's baffled everyone, Oscar Cortez at 4.5 million. Obviously, we've done a try before you buy with that one, and that's still an interesting one, so we'll come on to that. I've got no doubt. But I think one of the things that really surprised everyone during the week was Kevin Thelwell's interview, and he said it was a net spend of 20 million, or roughly around 20 million. I think that's been clarified today, Mitch, with some comments from Chris Jack, etc. What's your overall thoughts on that net spend, and do you think it's in that region over the 20 million has been said?
Do you know, I think it's one of these we'll not know until the accounts come out. And it's one of these. In all honesty, I think we spent too much time under the old ownership worrying about what pot the monies came from and how it's been financed and whose kidney was sold in the black market to get something that way. Like, I've reached a point where we have businessmen running the club as a business, and that's they knew the task at hand, which was essentially it needed open heart surgery at that point of bloated wages, wrong balance across the squad, and it just had to be done. And I do think some of the signings, Cortez, we were already tied into under the old ownership, and I will say long term, I still think Cortez comes good for us. I think the problem that he would have faced this season is getting minutes on the pitch, and right now, after his injury troubles, obviously last season, he needs minutes in the pitch, and he needs fitness, sharpness. He needs probably, arguably, warm weather out in Spain there, just for a few months, even just to get him up and running, run the risk, like get him comfortable, confident, relaxed, and get back to being the player that we've seen at the Under-20s World Cup that we signed. It's worth noting for everybody that wants to write Cortez off as a dummy and a dud signing and terrible money. The boy had clubs from all around Europe clamouring for his signature before we got him. And he is a player that I fully believe that when he comes back to us at the end of the season after a full season under his belt, let's remember Mikey Moore will go back to Spurs next season. There's a squad place right there for him to slot right into. We don't need to replace Mikey Moore the next season because we're bringing our own replacement back. But the difference is we're bringing a seasoned replacement back at that point, who's arguably had 30, 40 games, underneath his belt at that point. I think there's an element where, as a fan base, we've all been plagued with the injury curse over the years, where we go, right, well that's it. Richard broke his toe putting his socks on this morning, so that's him. We're not going to see him for 3 years now. I think it's all right to say we have reservations about how they've recovered from an injury, but we're only going to know how he's recovered from the injury when he gets playing, and that's the purpose of sending him out on loan. Would there be a better league to send him to? Probably, but that also comes with its own risks, i.e., game time, game management, and the overall treatment that it'll get. So I think Cortez, for me, I think long term provides a really good return on investment.
Okay, that's a good point. On you go, Rich.
Just, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, Mitch, but apart from you're probably going to die on that hill about Cortez coming good, so I think that's going to be cut
Always,
up.
Mate.
It's going to come back and bite you in the arse, perhaps. But I genuinely do understand what you're saying. But when you think about it from a club perspective, right? We forked out $4.5 million, and I don't want to focus on Cortez, but I'm just adding into it. Forking out $4.5 million for a left winger, good age. He's had his injury problems, and yes, I get what you're saying. He needs a run of games and things like that. But does he need a full season? That's a full year of his contract from that $4.5 million. So effectively, let's put it just over $1 million a year. I think it was a 4 or 5 year contract, and we're giving it to another club. Why can we not give him what he needs at our own club? Why do we need to send him away? Why can't we do anything with him? To get him up to speed, to get him performing for Rangers quicker. That's not me completely disagreeing with you. I understand the process behind it, but in order, when you think about getting value for money, how can we not do it? Why have we got to do it that way? Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Personally speaking, if it was me, I would have utilised the cooperative agreement that we've got and sent him down to Wraith Rovers even to January. Let him go down there, keep an eye on him quite close to home. I get that, again, none of us want to see a £4.5 million player in the Championship, but go down there, let him go and get a good solid 4 or 5 months of graft into him. And also, let's be honest, get used to a bit more of the roughhousery that comes in Scotland. That would have been where I would have done with him. But again, there's a reason why the three of us are on this side of the footballing world and not in Kevin Thelwell's seat. I do think though, when it comes to Cortez, obviously we don't know whatever agreement we've got with Spurs in terms of guaranteed minutes for Mikey Moore and stuff like that. So if we've got something written down in that contract of Mikey Moore will play X number of minutes over the course of the season, they would probably be the minutes that Cortez would have likely took over the course of the season.
Yeah.
And if we've got that with a player that's physically able now and has come off the back of an injury-free season, it's one of these ones of, well, let's protect our own asset, send them out on loan, but keep them active, keep them fit, and then obviously see what comes of it. Because also, again, it's a deal that we couldn't go back on. There was no backseas in the deal. The old ownership put that deal in place. So even if the 49ers wanted to have walked away from it, we probably would have still ended up paying something close to even half the transfer fee to walk away from it anyway.
Yeah.
But I think, as Richard says, I've lost my beloved Dessers, so I now need a new hope to cling on to.
Look, there's plenty of there for you, Mitch, to cling on to, and we'll come on to that one in a wee second. Look, I think to his really valid comments that he's making around Cortez and things. My view on Cortez is he's not a Rangers player, in my opinion. I've not seen anywhere near enough from him, and my worry with this boy as well is many times have you seen a player go out on loan and disappear and never come back to Rangers again, or come back and then go on loan again, and so on and so on. That's my fear with this boy. I think that's what happened. Mitch, I hope your confidence on this boy comes good. I really do, because if he comes back and he covers that Mikey Moore position, then again it saves us another transfer fee next season. But I'll be honest, that I'm not 100% confident on that one. But look, we'll snip that, Mitch. We'll make sure we come back to it in a year after his time, and we'll ask you again, hopefully, when he does come back, and we'll see where it's at with it. But
exactly, mate. It's one for the misfits, Sullivan.
Absolutely. Just on to the next question I want to ask these guys on this one, and we probably touched on it there a little bit in terms of what we can see improving. That came from Smoke, so we'll probably cover that one off in terms of what we can see improving. But just on that point as well, Rich, I want to come to yourself on a couple of ones. I'm going to throw two names at you, and I'm just looking to see what you think of these guys, because the reason I want to put these names is these guys came with the fans thinking these could do well. These guys can come in here and maybe do a turn for us. And I think where we're at the moment, we're probably not seeing the level of where we thought we were going to go. So I'll start with the first one, which is Joe Rothwell. Came in from obviously the English Championship last season. Everyone thought this guy could do us a really good favour. And we've just not seen it from Joe any up till now. So really just on Joe Rothwell, do you think he'll come good? Is he a player that you can see being the CDM for Rangers and taking that position? Or is that someone who could fall by the wayside if the pressure gets too much, do you think?
I think he will come good. And I'm probably going to get absolute pelters for it, right? Probably, maybe not as much as Mitch.
I've absolutely set you up a belter here on this one.
I know, but I'm going to throw a similar player at you, right? Who started pretty poorly, got better, and then dipped again. It was Lundstrom, right? Done the exact same thing when he came. Similar type of player in his position, stuff like that. Struggled at first. I think even Steven Gerrard coming out in one of his post-match interviews saying, "You're going to have to trust me on this. He'll come good," and he did. Not his entire time, but he did. He had for one season in particular. He was immense, and I'm hopeful, and I think Rothwell will be quite similar. I think it's going to take him time to settle, and we shouldn't be surprised it takes time to settle. Every single person that's played for Rangers understands it, says it's more than ability, it's a mentality, and getting used to that takes time. So unfortunately we need to give them time. That's why Aaron's probably struggling. Hopefully he will come good. It's probably the same with Joe Rothwell, because coming from down south, you guarantee that they'll underestimate the league and the intensity that comes with it. So it's going to be an adjustment for them. But going back to your question, I believe Rothwell will come good. I'm not going to say that he's going to be a standout, player that's going to be a man in the match, but I think he's going to be given as a solid 7 out of 10. I think he's going to be a reliable player. similar to what Lundstrom was. That's how I feel about him.
Excellent. Second name I'll throw at you, Rich. Really quickly, again, somebody who came with a big reputation for where he was playing and where he's at, and you'll probably know who I'm coming in this one. Dello Asgard. Has he set the heather alight so far, or has he been a disappointment, do you think, for Rangers so far?
I wouldn't go as far as being a disappointment. But he came in, he got injured, but from what a lot of the comments in social media, I think even Halliday said it in open goal, was like he was the standout player before his injury in pre-season training. I definitely, we've seen glimpses. There's a player in there. I don't think he's probably found his role. I don't think he's found his form yet. Probably still getting up to speed with things post-injury. So he's one of the players that I'm really hopeful, and I'm quite, I'll say pleased, but just stick with that. Really hopeful that he's going to be one of our best signings of the summer. From what I've seen, I think there's definitely a player in there. I can see the comments, maybe too lightweight, needs to hit the weights, perhaps. Perhaps you're right, but I think he's got that touch of magic that's going to not say win games for us, but open up defences, find that pass that probably the rest of the team's not going to look for. Yeah, that's what I'm hopeful. That's what I'm sort of seeing in him. Maybe I'm seeing it with my blue tinted specs on, but that's what I'm hoping from him. That's what I think we're going to get.
Yeah, I think with Asgard, Rich, I'll be honest, I think he was a player that really excited me when he came in. And actually, when we've seen what he could do, I've seen him a few times for Luton down south, and I thought this guy's a real player. My concern is the injury. That's been the big one. And then I think the second thing for me is, has he been played in his right position? And I don't think we've probably seen that so far. But look, I want to give the guy a bit of credit as well, because, and this is why I want to touch on Asgard. We're probably going off topic a little bit here, but I don't mind. I think it's pretty good to touch on it. Do you think, and I'll put this out to both of you, Rich or Mitch, do you think Asgard got enough credit for the job he done on Sunday against McGregor?
No.
I agree.
I'll keep the answer short and sweet to that. And I think, in all honesty, for me, he was tasked to do a dirty job. And it was and I think, not to kind of, go off on a different tangent, this was one of the things that Russell Martin had spoke about when he first came in, about as a team getting more streetwise and getting better at the dark arts of the game, and playing in the shadows a little bit, and that's exactly what Asgard had to do on Sunday there. He played in the dark arts of, that's your man, don't let him out your sight, you keep him in your pocket, and if you let him out your sight, you're taking a leathering after the game for it. And he stuck to his man like glue. And sometimes you've just got to be a little bit unpretty. You've got to do it a little bit ugly. And I think actually in a way, Asgard kind of answered a lot of the physicality questions around himself as well, of, can he cope with the beat up here? Is he rough enough? Is he tough enough? He was rolling it, he was rocking and rolling all afternoon. He was in about it. He was in the mixer for a guy who just came back from injury just a couple of weeks prior. I've got no concerns about his physicality, at all, where I watched him run about there for 70, 75 minutes until he was hooked. And he still looked good for a guy that had obviously only been back for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I see the comment there from RFC 72. We're actually praising attacking players for stopping somebody and doing nothing attacking wise. I think probably the reason why I've asked this question is, was he sent out by Russell Martin to do that job on Callum McGregor? Did they see McGregor as being the biggest threat for Rangers, and that's why they've done that? Or was it just a case of he's been asked to man mark and not had a great attacking game? I personally thought he'd done well at man marking him out the game, and I think, as Thomas has just said, McGregor is pivotal to how they play. And I thought with Asgard in there, I think he done a really good job on it. It stopped him from playing. But Rich, what was your overall assessment of that situation? Do you think that was what Martin asked Asgard to do, or do you think it just tied in the way it came out?
No, without a doubt, that's what he was tasked to do. What I would say about it is, I don't think he's had enough praise, but also for me, I didn't think Asgard was that type of player. I thought he was more, an attacking player, get on the ball, he'd try and do, the defensive side of the game that I thought personally we were going to be moaning about him for no tracking back or following his runners, but doing the stuff going forward. So to see him being able to do that surprised me genuinely when it was going through the game, and that's what was happening. It was him on McGregor. I was genuinely surprised. So that was good to see that he does have that, I don't want to say Eddie's Walker, but he can follow instructions doing that and do it well, to be honest, because as we know, McGregor's what makes Celtic tick. So to be able to do that, yes, he didn't have the best performance on the ball going forward, but perhaps the reason for that is because he was tasked to do something that perhaps was that he wasn't fully comfortable with. He done it pretty well, I'd imagine. I'd say he gets pass marks for being tasked to do that. And that just sort of disrupted his style of play. Is what maybe I'm giving him a too easy pass. He can't be doing that in every game, but it's not every game where he's going to be asked to effectively, nullify one of the opponent's midfielders. So it's a one-off domestically. So to answer your question, I think he has. He's not getting the credit, not getting enough credit. He's done what he was asked to do really well. Yes, he's not done anything going forward in the game, but that's something that Martin's going to have to coach into him or advise him, show him the videos of where he can add value while he's still doing that task.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's been a lot of discussion around these players that were brought in, and I think what really frustrates me at the moment is there is that debate on whether are these players any good that were brought in, or is it the debate at the moment is it the style that Martin's trying to play that's causing his issues, or is it the players are not good enough? And I think that's the debate that a lot of Rangers fans are having just now. And I think we've heard from some Rangers fans, if Martin is not in there and it's another manager, you get a tune out of these guys. Maybe it's just a mix of both at the moment, and we just need to see how this plays out over the coming weeks. There's a couple of other questions, guys, but before I go into that, I just want to say, look, comments are coming in thick and fast, guys. We are seeing them. We're trying to get them up as quickly as we can. Keep the comments coming. Keep smashing the like button on the page and on the video. We thank you for everybody's comments and for everyone tuning in, and we'll try and keep putting the comments up as much as we can, folks, so thank you. I'm going to come just before we take this page down and really we have some discussions on something else. There's a question here from William that I want to ask you, and the question is, do you think we need a set-piece coach? Now, Mitch, I'm going to put this one in with a bit of a caveat with it, right? We'll understand we've got a set-piece coach at the moment, which is Mike Williamson, is what we are led to believe. Now, whether he has actually been doing set-pieces or not is probably a debatable question. We could probably have a podcast on that on its own. But I want to touch on some of the players that have come in. Fernandes, Asgard, Jiga, Nikoma, Miovski, Chermiti, Cornelius, all really, really tall players. Should we be taking more advantage of this from a set-piece point of view? And probably, just to add on to that, Mitch, if you can, have you ever seen a team full of the players of the height that we've got at any point in time?
Yeah, what I have established this summer is Kevin Thelwell's a sicko like me, where he's just went out there and found the Space Jam 11 to go and shove out there. And I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm like, give me a team of 6-foot giants all day long, that's fine. We can keep Nico in there, but like we still need a wee bit of skill. But I think this was an area as a team we were so desperately lacking was physical presence at a set piece. Because if you look back to last season, realistically, the biggest physical presence at a set piece was probably arguably Suter and Proper. And Dessers, that's probably the three biggest kind of target. Now you can kind of look at it and go, well, do you know what? We don't need to just target the striker. We don't just need to target Robin Proper hanging about at the back, or we don't need to target, John Suter with his, 9 forehead, running about the place. I think what I do think as a team, touching on that kind of tactics and the stylistic element, I think when Russell Martin first came in, and I think obviously we've all had a few days now to kind of calm down, and we're in the international break, so the world's fine again. I think he's tried to take the team from point 1 to point 2, but didn't stop at 1.5 along the way to check that the players kind of got the message. And I think on Sunday, with the tactical tweaks that we've seen, I think we started to see that he was actually kind of pulling the horse back to 1.5, as opposed to try to go straight to 2 again. I think, I think for me, the set pieces that we've seen so far this season, we've already scored from a set piece this season. Obviously, we've seen, the cheat code that is the big mobile fridge freezer Fernandez at the back. Like, shove it on his head and he'll do something with it, or at the very least, he'll cause a nuisance in the box.
Yeah.
And I think some of this will probably come down to, with the international break now, those that aren't away on international duty, they're going to get extra time together, more time in the training pitch, more time to get to understand each other as well.
Mhm.
But I think there's a kind of two-prong issue when it comes to set pieces. We need to be a bit more creative and a bit more exciting in what we do with them. But we also need to be a damn sight better at defending them, because, as you say, we've got the land of the giants in the team now, And if you're 6 foot something and you're getting beaten by, some 5'9" Sparky to a ball, then quite clearly something's went wrong along the line there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, every team's got their tactics. I think we found a new tactic this season in the height, as you say there, Mitch. We've probably also found a new tactic in, this has come out of nowhere, but James Tavernier's long throws. Where does that came from? In the whole 10 years he's been with us, I think I've seen him throw the shortest throw-ins possible, but all of a sudden Martin's in there and there's long throws into the box every game. That has absolutely come out of nowhere, but maybe that is a tactic with the heights that we've got in the team now, and maybe that's something they're trying to use.
How much money for a set piece, coach, for him to go? You take throw-ins, mate. Chuck it in.
What's
Just crack on with that.
What's Rory Delap doing these days?
Exactly. Bring him in.
Set piece coach is sitting on the bench like, job done, lads.
Absolutely. Rich, if I can come to yourself, William's got a question here, which is, do you think Martin's grabbed his tactics in fear of a battering? Not William, this is Rangers on tour. Do you think Martin's grabbed his tactics in fear of a battering versus Celtic after Bruges, but will now revert to type? Based on what you've seen, and obviously bear in mind, we've just brought in Miovski, we've just brought in Chermiti, Cornelius is still to play. Does he revert to type now, or does he look at those players that he's brought in at the end of the transfer window and say, actually, I can now set up the way I want? Because he has said in some of his press conference, the team that was coming in at the start of the season was going to look very, very different towards the end. And I think he's been true to his word. It does look very different with the outgoings, etc. as well. So to the question from Rangers on tour, do we think he reverts to type, or does he keep doing what he done against Celtic?
I don't think he changed his tactics in fear of a battering. I think he changed his tactics because the players weren't doing what he wanted them to do. So he changed his tactics that way, which probably could have led to a battering, but Celtic are just being just as poor. I think with regards to him reverting to type, he's on a bit of a hiding to nothing, really, to be honest, because if he doesn't, then everyone will go, well, you said the squad would be different, so you brought in your type of player to play your type of football, so why have you now changed it? Yeah. But then if he does do that and we're still not performing, then it'll be like, why have you not changed the tactics? Why have you not adjusted the style to suit the type of players that you've got? So, a difficult question to answer. I think because he seems a bit of a stubborn guy, that I think that he'll revert to play the type of football that he wants to play, that he's done throughout his career at the other clubs he was at. He's brought in, his players. That's without a doubt he's done that. So one of the comments earlier on was, have we brought in players that can play Martin's style of football? Well, why are we bringing them in then if they can't? You know what I mean? You have all these stats nowadays. People, the scouting department, all the databases. Sure, I know you're not going to get every signing right, but why are we signing them to if they can't play his type of football, if they're not his type of player? So there's no excuses with him now, to be honest. He's run out. He's completely out of excuses. He's got the players that he wanted. They should be able to play his type of football. So that's why I think we'll go back to the type of football that he wants to play. But time will tell whether or not that's going to be good or not.
Absolutely. No, 100% agree. I think you're right, Rich. I think we'll go back to, I think the game against Celtic was very much a let's get through this, let's batter down the hatches and get through it. I don't think people expected them to be as poor as what they were as well on the day. So you're right, I think he will go back to his style of play. And it'll be interesting to see how that is, especially with the new boys that have come in. We heard Kevin Thelwell midweek saying that one of the reasons Cornelius was brought in was to potentially go to a back three as well. So Cornelius, Suter, Jigger could be that back three option. You never know how that will play out. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in that one.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt you, mate, you think he's going to do that against Hearts? You know, first game back, Hearts, you know, one of the hardest fixtures in the league. Bit of a risk. Bit of a gamble for that. For
huge,
me, but
huge gamble. Huge. I think he could though, Rich. I think see if he's if Cornelius had been brought in to go in alongside the likes of Jig and Suter, I think he could put your left back McComa and Taver Aarons at right back. I don't see any reason why he couldn't do that. It is a bit of a change. It could be something left field that people are not going to expect from him, because as I say, they may go back to type, or people may expect they're going back to type. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a back three come Hearts and Hibs. I think he might try something a little bit different there. But look, it's a huge risk because you need to get the wins from both of them. You really do. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. Mitch, can I come on to yourself? Just we're going to touch on one last thing here in terms of the arrivals, and I think it ties into a question that William had asked on it. So the question William asked was, how are we going to feed a striker when we create nothing from open play? So I think it's a really good question, and look, it ties into the next point we're going to come on to, which is our strikers. So we've brought in Jermiti. Obviously, we've let Dessers go. Danilo's still there. We've still got obviously the wingers that can come in and they can play. Mike Moore can play up front as well. Up top is what we understand. Gassama can play up top as well. But the one I'm really excited about is Miovski. And I would like to see Miovski play up there with one other. So a two up top. What's your thoughts on this, Mitch? Does Miovski excite you? Or is he just look, this is a bog standard, he knows the league and he can come and do a good job? And obviously from the question that was asked is, how do we feed the service to him?
I think when it comes to the service issue, I think that will come, and I think it should be coming obviously in the first match after the international break, because unlike, I think one of the biggest things that's maybe kind of hindered Russell Martin a little bit since the start of the season is about how thick and fast the games have came since the start of the season, where other teams have played maybe 4 or 5 games. We've played, 9, give or take?
Yeah.
That way, so the fact that we're already so many games deep, so young in the season, tells you that we've maybe not had as much time in the training pitch as maybe he would have liked to have maybe broke things down. But I think in terms of playing with Miovski up front, I think one of the things that Jermeti will surprise people is he's a big, strong battering ram of a player. He's physically big, and he can hold the ball up well. It's worth noting that Sean Dyche gave him 24 appearances under him, and I think you've seen glimpses of it without being spectacular and without putting the ball in the net. In a relatively poor Everton team, he managed to be a pretty good focal point for them, and he still had. I think he's got lots of learning to do, but I think having a seasoned professional like Miovski beside him helps him do that, and it helps him. It helps him just maybe take some of that pressure off him. And in the same way that last season when Agamani came in, he had Danilo and Dessers in there with him as 2 experienced international colleagues that, as well know with young players, they will have form that spikes up and then it'll dip back down again and it'll be a little bit inconsistent. That's probably going to be what we see from Jermeti this season, and I think that we have to accept that that's likely what we're going to see. But what we also then have to see is Danilo chipping in, Miovski chipping in, goals coming in from the wingers and goals coming in from midfield to help take some of that burden off him, so that he's not playing like he's got a shoe stuck in his chest. And I think, so to answer that, I think the style element, will come in terms of the creating better and open play. I think with more chemistry with the team, more chances to gel. And I think one of the things that we've struggled with, especially with I said in that opening, and I take the 2 Bruges games to the side because I don't really want PTSD from reliving them. Like, if you take the two Bruges games to the side, I think it's quite clear that Russell Martin hadn't up until the weekend maybe quite found the right balance to his midfield. And I think when you put, when you take if you take Connor Barron out and you put Nico Raskin in there, it's a much more complete midfield. But yeah, I think that'll come nicely because I think Nico has that slightly more attacking tendencies in him. Not to use an American football term, but to get a quarterback from the 6 row, to make things happen. He'll break a line and he'll break a line with a decent pass and feed through. I just don't want to see Nico attempt to cross a ball because, that man's more allergic to crosses than half the other side of the city.
Absolutely. No, listen, great points there you made. And look, I think we'll drop off the arrivals for the moment. And before we go on to some, I know there's lots of questions, guys. So look, thanks everyone for your questions. We're going to try and get through them before we finish up all the questions. Just keep liking and subscribing, folks. Thank you so much for all your comments that have been coming in. I'm trying not to laugh at some of the comments. Some of the comments are absolute belters, they really are. And the banter that's going on in this, Scotty's in there as well, and I can see some of the comments that Scotty is making it's just tremendous. One was about you sitting in a bank, Mitch, at some point in time as well, is where he thought you were. So
that's actually a storage safe for that Toblerone that he owes me.
There you go. But no, keep hitting the like button, guys. Keep subscribing if you can. Comments are fantastic. Keep them coming in, and obviously we'll try and get to the questions that we've got on here, folks. Before we just come off topic in terms of transfers, I just want to, Rich, come to yourself around one potential that could have been an outgoing, and it didn't happen. And I think it probably surprised a lot of people was we heard at the end of the window that Connor Barron had been subject to a loan bid from Bologna with a compulsory $6 million purchase fee or around that. Is that a surprise that we didn't go with that for yourself? And that $6 million potential fee that could have came with it, is that something you would have maybe bit somebody's hand off for Connor Barron?
I think that we rejected it because of the timing in the window. Basically, because it was the last day of the window. If that had come in a week before and we get time to get a replacement in, I think we would have went for it, to be honest. Decent value, so someone I can think that it's not going to be one of our regular starters. Probably going to be, I think he's going to play quite a lot of games, going to need him in a lot of games, but he's not one that we're going to hang our hat on, unfortunately. And don't get me wrong, I actually wanted the opposite to be the case. I think he's a cracking player. Probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, probably because he's Scottish and all the usual that comes with it. But I think there is a player in there, and he just does the dirty work a lot of the time. But I think if that was a few days earlier, I think they would have accepted it if they got a chance to get somebody else in.
Absolutely. And do you think on that one, Rich, and I know Mitch's answer to this one will be he'd be delighted, but just on the same situation, obviously Raskin didn't go. There was no obligatory fees or anything like that popped up towards the end of the window on that one, and he stuck around, and we've heard from Thelwell there's going to be discussions and stuff. Is that a good move for Raskin, do you think?
Well, what I would say is it looks a good move in the sense of it looks like Raskin's attitude is I want to stay and I want to fight for my place, and I'm going to prove the manager wrong. So straight away, he's getting buy-in from the fans in the sense of that he looks like he wants to be at this club. He's not, spitting the dummy out, as it were, publicly, despite what's going on behind the scenes and whether it's not. But to me, that just looks like a guy that's passionate. All right, he's got an opinion. Perhaps he's maybe stepped over the line, but he's probably doing it with the best interest of the team. So I'm glad he's still there. I hope he signs a new contract, and I think I'm hopeful, and I hope that he has an absolutely brilliant season, and he proves it goes on to be one of the guys that is named and has to be on the team sheet, because I think he's that type of player. I think we know he is. Barry Ferguson's came out with numerous times in his articles and podcasts and stuff and said he's an absolutely brilliant player. Neil McCann said it. We need to get him back to his best. We need to get him signed a new contract as well, by the way. Especially if he's going to say. But I think all the signs so far, right? Other than what we've not heard really from Martin about it, all the signs so far is positive. The guy wants to stay. It looks like he wants to prove his point. we just need to, show things up with the manager and get him back playing to his best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to touch two really quick points there. Conor Barron, some of the comments that come in there saying he had a great game on Sunday. I think he had a fantastic. He was my man in the match, I think, on Sunday, in terms of the way he played. I thought he played that 6 role really well. Really surprised to see him in there, but I thought he'd done fantastically well, so he did. So fair play to him in that. And then again with the Raskin one, I think it's tremendous that he's there. I think losing him at this point in time would have devalued him massively. And I think the fact Rangers have held on to him, and hopefully they can come to some sort of an agreement that gets him back playing again. Just it's got the Hagi situation written all over it from last year, which is the challenge, but you just don't want it going on much longer than what it's been. So hopefully you can get some good conversations going next week, and we can see him back in the team for Hearts and Hibs.
To be fair, mate, I'm kind of going to just chuck a bit of a curveball in at the situation. I know it's not like me to throw a grenade out there or anything. I actually think Russell Martin was right to do what he did on Sunday. Because if there's been something that's went on behind the scenes, whether it be a falling out or whether it be a bit of two bulls butting horns or whatever, if he's not in the right headspace to be involved in the team, and it was already, according to the reports that have come out, the senior players in the team agreed that he should have taken the game out.
Yeah.
It would have done more harm than good to have maybe kept him in the squad. That rather than what it did to basically put him in the naughty step for a game to say, look, and Russell Martin probably had to maybe kind of puff his chest out a wee bit to say, look, I will not, unlike other managers, I will not let players steamroll me out the club. And I think that might be something that some of the players who have been here a bit longer aren't used to seeing from a manager. A manager actually puffing chest back out and saying, no, I'm in charge, you're not, so you'll either shape up or you'll sit out.
Yeah.
But I think with Nico, I'd like to see Nico sign even a 1 year contract. Let's get him in the team. He's quite easily the best midfielder we've got.
Yeah.
Get him back in the team, get him playing well, and then he goes out to the World Cup and he makes us a nice wage packet there, a nice pay packet this time next year after a good World Cup. But I think there's maybe too much and not enough getting read into the situation. I think it could just be a manager and player have had a bit of a disagreement, and the managers went, you're not in the right headspace. You and I, we've not got time to sort this out before the game, so you'll go and sit at home and a wee bit like a naughty schoolboy.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point, Mitch, because it's right. This could be what Rangers needed at this point. They maybe needed that type of leadership to say, look, you are going to sit out for a few games and see where it ends up. And look, I don't know if the rumours that came out at the time was the senior player supported the decision from Martin, from what we heard, and that was the rumours that came through the fan media, etc. So, look, if that was the case, then fair play. You know what I mean? And hopefully Raskin and Martin can get round the table again next week and really push forward with it. I'm conscious of the time, guys, and I want to just really quickly, some quick fire questions if we can, get through before we finish up. There's a couple of things about our left back situation, so really quickly, and we'll come through. I'll jump through both of these questions, guys. Rich, can I just come to yourself for left back? Couple of questions on left backs. We had Rangers on tour saying that we only had one left back. What other option did we have if there was an injury? And Great Wall of Canada has said, would we have signed Jamal Lewis to take some weight off Makoma's shoulders? So that's been a big factor for everyone, I think. Left back position, do you think we've got enough there with Cornelius coming in, or do you see that being a problem position for us this season?
I think it's potentially something that's going to come back and bite him on the arse, to be honest, because it's going to be something that's going to get flagged up as soon as that boy gets injured. It's going to be likely Aarons or Cornelius at left back, which is not the preferred positions. So as soon as that happens, it's a bad game. He's going to get stomped all over. But when you say, have we got adequate cover? We've got people that can play in a position. So if depending as well as we change the formation, I'm not really too worried about it, to be honest, because I don't think it's going to really hamper us that significantly in the league. Might hamper us significantly in Europe, right? But to answer another question that came in, for me, the league is our bread and butter this season. We need to focus on that. So I don't think a left back position is going to really hamper us in the league, particularly. So I'm not overly concerned.
Perfect. Thank you, mate.
We've got a standout left back. We've got people that can cover, and for the majority of the games, it's our attacking threats what we're going to need more than our left back.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that, I think Scotty just put in the comments, we've got a video pod coming up very shortly around free agents and things. So that's maybe one thing we can look at in terms of would Rangers dip into that market again. I think somebody's asked that question about some of the players would they dip into the free agent market to bring that in. So we'll touch on that in another pod, definitely. Mitch, can I just come to yourself? Again, just trying to get through the questions really quickly. One of the questions that came in, would the fans accept Martin if he went unbeaten in the league, was a question from Thomas. I'm asking this question to you here, Mitch, because obviously transfer window is now closed and there's obviously still that burning thing in the background about fans wanting to accept Martin or not. Thomas has put the question to you there. What's your thoughts on that one, Mitch?
I think it's less so about going unbeaten in the league, but more he's had a few games in the league now where he has to show his understanding of the league from a managerial perspective. It's not the same league it was when he was here as a player, going back to yesteryear.
Mm-hmm.
I think as well the era of low blocks and hammer throwers. You see, when you look across the league, far less teams play like hammer throwers now. A lot of teams actually want to come and play football now. You got the odd exception like Livy, as we all know, when you want to play in their shipyard container, it is what it is. But more and more teams want to actually play football because there's more and more progressive managers coming into Scotland as well. When you look at the likes of, Hearts have played some decent stuff, Hibs have played some decent stuff. You look across, even Aberdeen, when they're fit and firing, they play some nice stuff. Motherwell will come and play in your face as well. I think one of the things that we just need to see from Russell Martin is that first game back, you want to see the click, that first click of, okay, this is what you've been trying to do before the break. It's maybe not worked because players are players. People have had head turns with moves, but the window's shut, business has been on, and this is what you've been working on behind the scenes. So it's a wee bit of I think the next game it's a show us your homework. Yeah. And if we can see the changes that he's trying to put in, then that gets the buy-in back in, get the result off the back of that, get the next result, and get the kind of train moving forward. I care less about going unbeaten in the league than I do about seeing consistency in the performances and actually going, right, okay, so part of the reason why we had a stuttering start was the churn in the squad, and it was players coming into the team, out of the team, players being in the team that, like Sir Jeff, they came in the team for 2 or 3 games and then was sold right before the next game. And you can say, well, that's unsettled things, that's fine. But I think, for me, Russell Martin needs to get the wheels of the bus moving quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think the next few games are vital to that, especially the 2 Edinburgh teams, and then obviously Livingston in between that as well. I think it's going to be a really tough few games, but it'll be interesting. I think probably the final question, and look, apologies folks, we've not managed to get to every question tonight, but we do thank you for all the questions you put in. The comments have been put in, it's been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to ask one last question to these guys, and it's something that Paul has put in at the start of the night, and I wanted to leave this to the last point that we really touch on. So Paul asked the question, referring back to Thelwell and the interview you had earlier on in the week. The question was, do they think they should have asked him his thoughts on the statement the fan advisory board had made? I think it's a great question from Paul. I wasn't expecting that question to come up to Kevin Thelwell, in all honesty, because the fan advisory board were quite open in their views around what they thought around Martin. But Rich, I'll just really quickly for yourself, if we can, and then we'll wrap up with Mitch on it as well. Do you think that should have been a question asked to him, or can you understand why that question's not been put to Thelwell in his interview?
I think everybody can understand why he's not answered a question on that, because you're not hiding to nothing with it. You may as well. You're loading the gun up on yourself. No matter how he responded to that statement, he would have been hounded. So it's whether if he supported it, why is Martin still there? If he goes against, not goes against the advisory board, but he can't, because that's what they're there for. So it's better from a PR perspective to just not ignore it, but at this point in time, just not to address it. Probably get asked of him in the future. I suspect, or certainly to at least Russell Martin, probably. I don't know how he answers that question, to be honest. I think you just got to hope that the performances will improve and people will pretty much forget about it, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely.
So, can I just quickly answer one question that I noticed? So showing us said, are you concerned that a lot of the players have not had Europa League experience? For me, no, not concerned about it at all, because the league is our bread and butter this season. We've got to be performing domestically. That's what I care about, and I'm sure that's what the majority of the fans care about, really, to be honest. We all seem to do well, up until this season, we all seem to do well in Europa, so I'm not concerned. I think we'll still come good. I think we'll still do well, and hopefully those performances in Bruges will be wiped clean, hopefully. But just to answer that one, no, I'm not concerned, because it's all about the league.
Yeah, totally agree, Rich. I'm the same with you on that one. It's a really good question. I certainly don't have any concerns about it. I think the players, that's the type of games they manage to get up for quite easily. And you've got to hope that, looking at the games we've got, we should be getting off to a good start, you would expect, in that one. But look, let's see. Let's not jinx them too much in that one, and what I'm doing there. Mitch, just from your point of view, and I would just like to, if we can, wrap it up after this one. Obviously, we asked the question about Thelwell. We've seen some of the comments tonight about his Thelwell reputation is on the line at the moment. We've obviously got the reputation on the line with Chermiti because of the signing and the money that he's put towards it. Coming back to the theme of the night, and it's probably one we probably leave to the very last part, 10 million plus is what we're hearing is the number. If it doesn't work, what does that do for Thelwell and his experience with transfers?
I think throughout Thelwell's career, so while he was at Wolves and while he's at Everton, he's a man that's proven he's got far more right than he has got wrong. And I think I said this at the start of the summer, when Thelwell was announced and stuff. Some of the signings will be solid, not sexy. Some of them will be brought in to be functional players within the squad. And we've seen that with certain players that have come in, where you just go, do you know what? I get why you're here. But you're here for, a year or two, help the young players out, get them developed, and we'll make the money back that way from those players. We'll not make the money back on, signing Richard to a 4-year deal. But what we're going to do is Richard's going to make, wee Magoma look much better beside him. So that if he was ours on a permanent transfer, you're looking at 10 or 12 million pound in 2 years' time from him. And it's been the experience that Richard's brought to the field. And Richard, I'm just using you because you're right in my line, mate.
You crack on, mate. I'm enjoying it.
But I think there's a couple of players, and you've seen examples of that while he was at Wolves, where he brought in the likes of Connor Cody into Wolves and a lot of the kind of core English players. At Everton, when Everton didn't have a pot to, put any water in, he brought in players that were seasoned Premier League players like Ashley Young. He brought in Dwight McNeil. These are not they are not names that set the world on fire and make your heart go fluttering. But they've done the job for a couple of years, and they made those younger players at Everton better. That helped him then flip those players to make Everton back on the black again. After years of terrible player management. So I think when it comes to looking at Chermiti, he's the man that signed Chermiti over at Everton, and he done but he's also the guy that also signed Beto over at Everton as well. Beto had a sticky first season when he first got there, where he was adapting. It was a bit of a mess. It didn't really help the fact that when he was there, obviously, he had guys like Neil Maupay and all that in the team and causing carnage. And his learning tree wasn't exactly fantastic and the most professional is the best way I can put that. But you look at Beto now that he's had, 2 seasons under his belt or 18 months at Everton. He is an accomplished Premier League striker. He might not be a world beater, but if somebody wanted to come in and buy him because he's got the Premier League tax on him and his age, you're quite comfortably making your money back and then some on him. Also, Scotty, you've got a cheek to be talking about anyone's hairline, son. You look
That
like
is
you look like
tremendous.
somebody's just like laid astroturf in your hair, son.
Mitch, tremendous. Look, Mitch, can I just say, you always leave us with a line, and I think on the signings, you said the signings have been solid but not sexy. I think that's got to be the tagline of the night, or tagline for this pod: solid but not sexy. Look, I think
Much like
Chermiti,
myself, mate.
I think Chermiti, look, I hope you're right. I hope he comes good. I hope it's not 10 million that we've put down the drain. I think there's a lot of fans who are still questioning at the moment, and I hope that he does come really well. And let's see what he brings in the first couple of games when we come back from the international break. Gents, look, we've been on for just over an hour and 10 minutes now. I just want to say thank you to everybody for all their comments. Comments that have been coming in is fantastic. Look, I'm laughing at some of them because they're just, the banter, as I said earlier on, has been fantastic between folks. Scotty's been tremendous in some of the comments that have been coming in as well. Mitch, you've obviously put some comments in. Doug's been putting some comments in, so it's absolutely fantastic. Some of the banter that's going on there, and we love to see you guys. Obviously, as always, guys, please hit the like button, share this as much as you can as well. Rich, I just want to say thank you for coming on. First time I've been on with you, mate, and it's been an absolute fantastic show, I think. So some of your comments are tremendous, and it just shows you the passion you've got for Rangers at the moment, especially the fact that you're probably sitting nearly close to midnight there and you still want to talk about it. So thank you for coming on, Rich, and we hope to see you again soon, mate.
Enjoyed it, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mitch, thank you as always. It's been a pleasure. Yourself and myself have been the Thursday night. What would the word we say? Thursday night
Third Club.
Thursday night, could use that one. We use that one. But no, listen, thanks for everything. We really do appreciate it. And thanks for coming on tonight, Mitch. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, mate.
Couple of things just before we wrap up, folks. There's a Friday show tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Please tune into that for some updates. Scotty said earlier on there are some new shows coming, so keep an eye out for that on the social media pages and the channels, etc. Again, just want to say thank you to everyone for coming on, their comments, for liking everything, for sharing everything. It is great to see you on a Thursday night. We'll be back again next Thursday night, I've got no doubt, Mitch, and hopefully Rich will see you Thursday night as well next week. But listen, folks, just thank you again, and just finally to say every night is the Rangers Journal night.